Hyderabad is our main center.
Oh, great. So looks like the live streaming is on. So let's start. Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to the panel discussion today. As you know, at Odin School, we keep doing a lot of talks with experts to help get better insights into what is happening in the industry when it comes to new age tech like data sciences, full stack, and others. Today, we have a very interesting panel discussion. It's a pleasure today to introduce our panelists. Let me start with Dr. Debojyoti Roy. Welcome, Dr. Debojyoti. Thank you so much for giving us your time Saturday morning.
Good morning to you guys.
Dr. Debojyoti is the Chief Data Scientist at Aureus Tech Systems. He's been here for close to 4 years, and he's been instrumental in creating NLP-based solutions. So that is his area of specialization. Previous to Aureus, he worked at as a senior data scientist at Carvey Analytics, Rice Group, and several other companies as well. He has a doctorate from Webster University in management, US in econometrics and quantitative economics. Welcome, sir, and looking forward to learning a lot from you today.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to your questions.
Thank you. Nagaraju Chikoti is the TGPDS product engineering at a senior manager with Micron technology. He's been here for close to 2 years, before which he's had a long stint with Wipro Technologies, where he was the practice head of manufacturing analytics, and before that, practice manager, business analytics solutions. So quite a lot of experience in the analytics and data sciences domain. Welcome, sir. Looking forward to learning from your experience and all the insights that you could give us.
Thanks very much for inviting me into this and sharing my experience and learning from both of the panelists and you. Yeah.
Thank you. So Odin School is new age online upskilling platform, and data science has always been our area of focus because we understand that in terms of industry requirements, also there is a lot of requirements in the industry. We constantly keep getting calls from our industry partners asking for trained talent, and we kind of have an understanding that there's a lot of demand supply gap in terms of talent in the data sciences domain. So this talk is all about understanding that how do you actually prepare yourself and to make a career in the data sciences industry. And we're going to discuss a lot of other things. But before that, Nagaraju Garu, could you please tell us a little more about your journey, specifically in the data sciences and business analytics domain? And it'll also be great if you could tell us a little bit about your company.
Sure. Myself, I've completed my bachelor's in 1996 from Osmania University with a specialization in mechanical production. And in the last final semester of my bachelor's, I was giving a talk on activity-based costing, and I was doing a project or an internship with HMT on designing hydraulic control systems for clamping devices, basically for connecting rod clamping device. And I tell you about why I did talk about these, mentioned about these two projects in particular and how it relates to, the learning experiences that I had earlier in my career. But immediately after my, graduation, I got placed into Wipro, where my first two projects were in the areas of supporting and developing MIS applications using SAS and EasyTrib, 4th-generation languages, basically. Back then, people, when I say I was working on SAS, people would call, is it SAP or what is it? Like people hardly knew what SAS was. Right. But then it was the leaders in the analytics space, in 30 years back, I would say, right? And then the experiences that I had, supporting this MIS applications for this customers, which is in the area of, billing, computer usage metrics. Basically, we were required to come up with continuous metrics that would help the organization to charge back the internal customers, their internal customers for any of the resources used by any of their internal employees for the computer resources they were using. And then I was also involved in, like I said, I was involved in developing reports for compensation, benefits designs and calculations, things like that. This experience that I had with the MIS, supporting MIS applications and all, actually helped me to land a job in FedEx Express, in their strategic finance decision support systems within corporate financial planning. And during my initially I was hired as a contract to hire, and as a systems analyst, I was involved in developing, extracting and routines for extracting and transforming data using SAS and focus-based programs. Again, 4J languages primarily on the mainframe. And later on, the role got transformed into providing a data architecture, ETL architecture, setting up the platform, for building decision support systems. And throughout this, I would say it's a very enriching experience for me, because I was involved in developing several of their internal products, in the space of profitability systems, financial planning systems, general ledger and budgeting systems, and so on and so forth. Then for my personal reasons, I had to come back and come back to India, and I rejoined Wipro, and had a long 18 years plus career within Wipro. And again, very, very enriching experience, because one day one of my customer asked me, what is your experience? Is it 1 times 25 or 25 times 1? And I had to tell him that it is actually 25 times 4 times the number of people that I have interacted with, whether it by my teams, my customers, or my colleagues and all that, right? So for me, every month, every quarter, it's been a new. And if I have to sum it up, I would sum it up into 4 or 5 different phases of my career within Wipro. One, in the consulting phase. Second is in the execution phase. Third is in the solution development and go-to-market development phase. And fourth, it is the entrepreneurial phase. And I talk about, what all I was doing in each of this journey. And in the final phase, basically scaling up the practice. It comes with its own challenges when you have to scale from 1 million to a 10 million or 20 million a practice. So that's and all of this is in the areas of data and analytics space. And my recent, when I talk about in the consulting phase, it's all about knowing your customers' problems, coming up with roadmaps, and going about implementing them. When you're talking about in the execution phase, it's all about managing projects, programs, dealing with uncertainties, risks, and assumptions, and things like that, dependencies, and managing stakeholders' expectations, working with teams, and things like that. And when you're managing teams which are primarily in the analytics space, it's a lot more different than if you were to manage projects in a different technology area. Then when I talk about my experience in the in the solution development and GTM space, it's all about innovation and how do I go about my innovation journey, in terms of identifying the white spaces, and then building a whole GTM around that, and making it successful, in terms of getting customers and then delivering to the value that you proposed. In the entrepreneurial phase, it's I had the experience of actually building up a case and getting the seed funding approved and setting up the practice, coming up with the operating plan, and then executing to the operating plan and things like that. And in the last phase of my career in Wipro, basically I was I had to scale that practice. For a long time it was operating, we were kind of a small team doing a lot of innovative things, but then we had to scale that, and scaling means unless and until you build solutions where you can deploy to customers at speed across different plants and sites that have in a reasonable amount of time, right? And that's what customers are looking for. And that's where my experience in the last phase of it while in Wipro. So I would say, I was able to do that successfully. And then this role at Micron came up, and wherein the role was, managing projects in the data science space for technology and product and process development group. And I took it up for one reason. Basically, I wanted to build that depth within the data science space. And second reason is I was always amazed and fascinated by the complexity and the pace at which these companies innovate in the semiconductor space. And being an engineer, I would say this is an engineer's paradise. So I took that opportunity, and I just started in 2022, and it's again been an enriching experience. Interacting with some of the best minds in the industry.
Right. Very, very rich experience. I will come back to you with a few questions, because there are certain things that I can immediately relate to, because a lot of inquiries that come to us from people who are looking to build a career in data science, most of them are not from computer science background, not from probably statistics background or things like this, but so are you. You started out with mechanical engineering production, and then you're now in one of the leadership positions in data science space. So I'll come back to you for more insights on, the kind of suggestions that you can give to people who are making that kind of transition. But for now, Dr. Debojyoti, could you please introduce yourself, take us through your journey in the data space, and also tell us a little bit about your company.
So I passed out in 2005. After passing out in 2005, in those days, there was no data analytics. So those days were mainly of CRM. CRM is still a big deal here. So I was moved into, as a fresher, I joined Hewlett Packard. When I joined Hewlett Packard, it was mostly CRM. So from then onwards, I have seen that how data can be played around, but so there were Siebel reports used to happen. So from then onwards, I have a fascination for data storytelling and all this.
Right.
Then I moved to US in 2007. I started working in US for multiple consulting companies. But while I was doing that, see, the progress before in India, the internet revolution is in US. So there, like when I was exposed to US culture, I see a lot of companies are trying to do their business with data. Then I was like, okay, so this looks like the future where business will be driven. So I went to do my MBA from Webster University. So there I have computer science as my as a specialty. Once we do that, then my teachers, they have talking about data and all this. Then I actually joined their PhD program and did my econometrics degree. Now once then I got exposed again to companies. I see that before there was basically two phases of my life: pre-PhD, post-PhD. Pre-PhD, I was like mostly I'm basically working as a data analyst. Once post-PhD, once my knowledge is more on the data and statistical thing, I find this area to be very fascinating. And being myself, I think myself as a coder. So from Nagaraju Garu, I have a different insight, means he's more into people's management. Still today, I am the chief data scientist. I don't manage people. I have no reportee under me. I code. I just sit and code. That's my day from morning till evening. So so how do this thing happen? So now, as a senior person in my organization, what I do is I talk to clients. So when I talk to clients, I try to see what's their problem. So now the insight is different here. When we talk to clients, we see that, because clients are not also not aware of all the techniques. Now there, in any organization, there are like, one is what you read in books, and one is when you try to put that um, in working. We call that the rubber meets the road. That's where the scaling and all these things comes into play. My role is more like, okay, I understand this is the algorithm I'll try to use. This is the problem this my clients are facing. This is the story I have to tell. But how to do that at the minimal cost, at the lowest amount of time possible, this is what I plan. That, how to productionize say a GB database, how to productionize that, how to take an insight from that. So that's my day mostly. Uh, in Aureus Tech Systems, what we got is, so when I got in Aureus in 2019, so before I joined Aureus, they were mostly doing data analytics things, means data analyst thing, means there was no data science thing. But our CEO, he kind of sees that, we cannot, so the problem is we cannot compete with a Wipro, we cannot compete with a Capgeminis, we cannot compete with TCS if we do this, consulting thing. So we have to be a boutique company, and that's how we project ourselves, a niche company who do things which other companies are scared to do. So what we did, we started launching first. How do we get traction in the market? We launched our own product, that is Anvesa, and that Anvesa is being devised by our management team and implemented by me. And then we went to production team and all this. So we understood that this is the problems we have to solve. So once we have Anvesa, then we started launching other products. We have Customer 360, which is basically a CRM, which replaced CRM in this field. And right now we are in the process of ChatGPT, means we are trying to build our product based on ChatGPT as a fulcrum. Because whenever I goes to the market, everybody is saying build something which has ChatGPT as its heart. You still have to do a lot of things, but ChatGPT at its heart. So this is where the industry, and if you just see the transition, when I just sit and sometimes think that from where this field has moved to where, like initial days, BI reports, Power BI, those are big things. Like people know that it's a big thing, but now it is like how accurate. So there are two things you have to give to the customer: accurate information and at a minimal cost. So how to do that, the students have to learn. So what I feel like, we have interns in our company who comes even from high school. We have interns who comes from IIT. So we have basically doing a program with IIT Ropar and IIIT Hyderabad. We have interns coming in all the time. So we try to inculcate this habit to them, that see a data, understand the data, then try to see that what stories you can tell about that data in a scaled up way. You just don't write something and just say my job is done. We try to, basically all the interns which you bring in, we try to make them walk through fire. We try to give them simulated production environment and show them, how to. So our goal is, we are sometimes absorb some of the interns, sometimes we don't. But the point is, we try to show them that in a product development company, what kind of work experience you will get, what kind of trouble you will get. So we are basically working in legal field. So our Anvesa is a product which is predominantly in legal. We have Customer 360, which is predominantly in insurance. So we have various inputs coming for those products. So even those products which is already been launched, used by customers, we are continuously giving upgrade after upgrade. So whatever we take the feedback from the market and try to make this product better. So my journey from being a report developer to a product developer, this is what I got, and there is a lot to learn. With this chat GPT thing, it's like, looks like the world has got a very potent weapon, but how to use that effectively, that's what the students of currently has to learn. Means
Yes.
I feel any student who is coming out, be it Odin school, be it Upgrad, be it Great Lakes, be it any school, they need to know how to use ChatGPT, because right now, the see, earlier we used to say, you know Python, you know JavaScript, then you can code. Now we are saying, do you know prompt engineering?
Correct.
So
Yes.
now this whole thing moved from code writing. Yes, obviously you need to know how to write a code, but from that code writing, now you move to prompt engineering. Can you write a good prompt? That's where this, right now this data science field is all about, writing good prompts.
Thank you so much. So, very nice that interesting that you brought up ChatGPT, because, when it kind of broke into the market and there was so many talks about it, and we being in the upskilling space, especially in data analytics and data engineering, a lot of people came to us and say, is your course still pertinent? Is it still relevant? Will ChatGPT take away all our jobs? Will it start doing analytics on its
It
own?
won't.
Are we going to lose our jobs? So that was one concern that a lot of people had.
No, it won't. It won't, because right now, see, we in our company, we have moved from the hello world stage. So,
right.
So we are right now in the building a product. We are in the process of scaling up. We have seen the problems. So ChatGPT is definitely not taking away anyone's job, be it assured. Only thing is you have to learn a different skill to use ChatGPT to build your own product.
Yeah. So instead of looking at it as a competitor, probably, you should look at it as a tool that you can use to make yourself more efficient, make processes more efficient. It's essentially a tool, and not something that's actually competing for your job.
It's not a human being. Means
exactly.
when we have cases. So right now, say for example, some of the use cases which are already closed, we are trying to make, because that's the benchmark for us. So we are using Chat GPT, and definitely Chat GPT is not a human. It's not a human. It still need a lot of pre-processing the data. It still need pipelining your data. And at the end, you need to write a very good prompt to get the same output. So that's the skill we are looking for even for our interns, and which we are trying to show our interns that this is what the world is all about right now. Write good prompts.
Sure. Nagaraju, coming back to you, a reputed semiconductor manufacturer like Micron, it's very strategically placed. We're talking about data and all that, and Micron has been in the domain of manufacturing memory solutions for so many decades now. So for a company like Micron, how would you view data sciences? How would you view analytics, and what is the kind of work done?
Yeah, sure. Thanks again for the question. So Micron, just to give you a background about Micron, they are the leaders in the manufacturing of memory solutions, right, and memory products. We are very unique in the sense that we are a fully vertically integrated chip manufacturing company. What that means is right from the start of making the chip design to coming out with wafers, producing it, coming out the tape outs, mask and process development, product development, and then doing the assembly and test, and then doing packaging, and then final shipment of the products. All of it, it's internally done for the most part of it. Some parts of it which are related to assembly and test would have been outsourced, but most of it is done inside within the company. And I work within the division called Technology and Product or Process Development Group. And we are involved in coming out with new chip designs into the market, and we're always measured on how fast we can come out with new designs and new products into the market. right? And then not just fast and better products, but also coming out with cost-effective and efficient and qualitative products in the process. And this once we are done with design of new products to the mature yields, then it goes into the high volume manufacturing phase, wherein this the learnings that we would have had to scale it out, it will be transferred to the volume manufacturing sites, wherein they go and do ramp up, to the manufacturing volumes, and then there is a continuous production of each of these products, meeting to the customer demands and quality requirements and the efficiencies and the yield and quality requirements that we would have internally. Whether you take either product development or a process development, or whether you take volume manufacturing requirements, for us data is integral part of the product. In fact, I had one leader who used to say is our products are how good our product is based on how good we are at collecting data and drawing insights from it. That summarizes the whole of the importance of data and analytics in the chip making and delivering the products to the end customers in this whole journey. It's a very complex process in terms of designing the chip, coming out in the initial rollout of the chip, meeting the yield requirements that we would have, and then taking it, producing it to the volume requirements that we would have. So it comes out with a lot of steps that are involved, and at each and every step there is a lot of data that is getting generated, and we are always looking out ways and methods to discover patterns that can help us to drive faster product development, bring out efficiencies, qualities, and yield improvements, and then be quick enough to address any customer quality issues when any of our quality issues escapes in the in-house part of it, right? So you need the ability to quickly react so that your customer quality issues are curtailed to the minimal extent possible, and you gain the customer reputation. And we are known for quality, and we are known for our innovations in the product space, and all of it is the central to this is data and analytics.
Right. I think data and analytics is kind of integral to it's kind of agnostic to the industry these days, right? Whether it's pharmacy or manufacturing or tech or non-tech or whatever. I think every company is getting involved in analytics and leveraging this kind of technology. Right. So that is one trend that we've really seen, because a lot of companies come to us from agri-tech, for example, asking for talent in data sciences. We get people, HRs coming in from the pharmaceutical manufacturers, Dr. Reddy's, Novartis, all these companies asking for data analysts and visualization dashboard developers and all these. So this is one domain that has probably somehow managed to cut across all industries and make its mark felt. So as a follow-on question of that, Dr. Debojyoti, I'll come to you. So Aureus, like you mentioned, is doing groundbreaking work in innovative AI-driven solutions, right? So could you help us understand a little more, throw a little more light on data, which is kind of generated from multiple sources and is often in a very unstructured form, right? So how does it go through different transformations before it can become the crux or the base for an AI product development?
So right now, so we when we talk about unstructured data, it is more like your text, which is not so mainly text from where we can we can generate data. That's what we call it, unstructured data. But you cannot use that data to generate, I will say, insight. Why? Because that data is not cleaned up. So there is some pre-processing has to be done to that data. Basically, you clean up the data, you basically remove chunks so that you can make some summaries out of it. And then once you kind of summarizes the data, then you put it that to your multiple programs. It can be, say, topic generation using an LDA, or you can use it for in ChatGPT as an input for generative AI. So now what we are seeing, so my domain is a little bit different from Nagaraju Garu. Mine is mostly legal and insurance.
Great.
Now, these two fields, what I have seen is they are people who wants insight. Like they have some data. Say, for example, today an accident happened. So when an accident happens, what happens? Somebody calls. We all calls our insurance company, and we say, okay, this has happened. So once this happened, what happens is you give some information, but you do not give that information in a structured way. You say, I have an accident. This accident happened at this road. It happened. Like you mention all your thing. What we do is, so now say, for example, that is an unstructured data. From that unstructured data, we basically say grab entities, that when this accident happened, where this accident happened, what is the kind of damage you are explaining, who is the other driver, or what are all this information. So that is one form of pre-processing. That means you're grabbing entity. With that entity you are grabbing, so say for example you are receiving 100 calls, one agent gets 100 calls a day. So think about a whole call center, how many calls we grab. So all this information is been now fed to a central database. Then we get our insight from that, and that's how you generate your company reports and everything. That is one form of it. Like when you have unstructured data, from that you make it structure and you generate insight. Other form is, say for example, somebody is calling you and said, I need a quote for my, say, car insurance. And then we ask them certain questions. From that certain questions, can we generate an insight that what kind of quote should we generate? So that is a generative AI. Like you are generating some insight based on that information which that person provided. Earlier, what we used to do is we used to basically, before this generative AI field came up, we used to have multiple algorithms. Through that algorithm, we used to say, okay, past record says that, customers like this have behavior like this. And then with matching with that, I'm going to quote them that. That is an algorithm driven quote we are giving. But generative AI, it's basically not only grabbing, it is also looking at your tone. What have you spoken about? It is trying to make out of that what kind of quote you deserve. So these two domains, specifically legal and legal also, because you have to win cases. In India only, your computer generated documents are not accepted in court, but in US and Europe it is well accepted. Your opposing counsels will ask for documents. So in legal, what we have tons of document, because it's legal, right? You have to put in everything. From that, how you generate insight. So my fields are mostly from unstructured data. It is moving to a generative space where you are generating insights which is not in the data, but you are basically from a pattern, you are making that thing applicable. Now this field, like when we talk about generative AI, what is that? It is basically GAN. Like we are using deep neural networks to generate that. Now how ChatGPT, again, I'm bringing it ChatGPT because it's relevant. How it is helping us. See, for every company, you cannot have a GAN trained model because it's very costly. It needs a lot of data. All the companies won't have. So how OpenAI is helping us is they are already giving you pre-trained model to work on your data. Now, anybody can either use their data for your own purpose, or you can train your own data on OpenAI models. So OpenAI have given you multiple models. They are all cost-based. Some models are pricey, some models are cheap. Now you train your own data on those models and then you generate those insights. So this is what is my field of work is right now, more in the generative AI space.
Shruti, maybe I can add a couple of things in there to your question about proliferation of data science into other domains, right? It is true that data science is almost pervasive in any field and every domain that you can think of now. But what we need to understand is the maturity of each of these organizations within each of the domain verticals for various reasons, right? They're at different levels, right? If I take a high-tech manufacturing company, there is no dearth of data. Petabytes of data is generated throughout the manufacturing process or in the design phase, and multiple dimensions and features in the order of 70 to 100,000 features are very norm, right? It's a regular thing for us, and yet you will run into situations where you don't have the data that you need, for various other reasons, for efficiency purposes, and like for example, we would have an equipment where the time availability is very critical, and we would sample the data, right? And is the sample enough for you to draw insights whenever there is a problem? And the problem itself is, 1 in a million kind of a thing. But yet, since we are driving the quality, because these are some of the chips that we make are mission critical go into mission critical applications. It's very imperative that we maintain the quality in every product, every chip that goes out into the market. And that requires handling a lot of challenges. The data is not a problem, but still getting all the data that we need, even though there is much of data in there is there. If you take, again, pharma, wherein, I was during 2010 or 2011, where I was chartered to come up with a new product in the areas of manufacturing quality and yield. And it was during the recession time, and we were debating which industry to go for, to go and target, right? And I thought, pharma is a recession-proof industry, and we came up with whole value proposition for pharma, all business case, everything looked rosy. It was coming out with 50 million to 100 million, savings potential if you were to improve, right? And then we would go out and talk to customers, and I had, where I was presenting to the CIOs, where we were hosting an event to all the Indian CIOs and presenting, talking about, yield improvement and quality improvements as the need of the industry, given the, the benefits it would have. Everybody and listened to it and said, look, we don't have the data that you're talking about, right? So, that requires a reset of your processes, reset of your, your equipments and, machines to be able to generate the data that you would need before you can go into, generating, insights out of it, right? So in summary, what I want to say is different customers at different maturity levels. You need to assess where they are in the maturity level, and the solutions for that in that journey space is going to be a lot different, and you need to work with them within that. So the recommendations and the solutions would be a lot different.
Right.
One thing. So,
Yes.
Shruti, the problem, say, as an Odin school, right? You have people coming from all fields, right? And I, being a mentor in multiple institute, I will not name them. You can just see through my profile. I also see people coming from multiple fields, and the general question to them for me is, if I'm investing in this course, if I'm learning this, will it help me?
Yes.
If I basically summarize that, I will say every white collar job, okay, every white collar job person needs to understand data. Whether you learn it through school, even in CBSC, ICSC, they're all trying to start this, AI decision driven course. Why? Because the governments also see a need. If you are a white collar worker, means you can go in depth, you may not go in depth, you can do a 6 months to 1 year course, but it is needed, because once you are in your in your office, in a white collar job, somebody somewhere is going to talk to you about data. If you do not know what is analytics is, what is data science is, you don't have to know the algorithm behind it, because that's a data scientist job. That's a, but you need to understand what is data and the importance of data. For that, a learning needs to be done. Either it can be done through any school, or if you get to an internship somewhere, but understand data. So my point is, for every white collar job, what Nagaraju Garu is saying, farm beat, pharma beat, insurance beat, legal beat, processing, you need to understand the importance of data. So
that's so true, especially as you grow up the ladder. When you reach a leadership level, or even
no, you don't have to reach leadership level. I'm telling you, in my organization, people may be a business analyst, people may be a tester, but they still have to, we have to work as a team, right? A tester has to, a business analyst has to talk to me that, okay, this is what I think the client want. So if I'm talking data, they don't understand data, how will we work as an effective team?
Right.
How is a tester going to do an effective testing on the product which we are building? So every white collar job, I feel the need to understand data, get your knowledge from somewhere. Means you don't have to, if you can do it, there are multiple platforms, but it is needed. Without this, you won't survive. Means it will be hard on you.
Correct. And both of you have seen this field of data, evolve over the last few decades. But I think the kind of emphasis that is being laid on this field in the last 5 to 10 years, we haven't seen it in the previous decades. So what is your comment about how this field has evolved, and where do you see this going? I mean, you kind of already addressed that, saying that, every white collar job person does need at least a basic data sense. But where do you see this going forward with all these generative AI tools and all coming up? So definitely the demand for people who are skilled in data analytics and sciences is going to go up. But what do you see any trends and observations currently, and something about the future? Nagaraju Garu, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So like I said, right, when I started my career, I started with SAS. SAS is known for analytics back, 30 to 40 years back as well, right? So analytics as such is not new for organization. I would say that, it was not mainstream. You would have one division which is sitting in one corner, and they would do all kinds of things. But then the rate at which, you would apply data science or analytics into your core business processes, or the areas that you would ideally wanted, right, did not happen at that pace, primarily because of the compute, which was not scalable at that point in time. So I know some of my friends who were back then doing, came from, research industries in Yahoo and research labs from Yahoo and Facebook and other places, right? Where in Yahoo back in 2000, they were saying that they would submit a model and it would run overnight, and they would come back and then they would look at the results, right? So that was the case back then. Now look at us where we are. We are talking about deploying and inferencing models at the edge. So to me, the innovations that has happened in the compute and storage space have really led in terms of adopting analytics, in every sphere of life that we can think of. And thanks to Micron and companies like Micron, which made that happen. Right. And I take pride in saying that, being part of this company and being part of this. So as I said, as we are going to see even more, innovations in the way we do, coming out with innovations in the chips that we make, whether it is compute side or in the storage space, the applications of that on a real-time basis, right, will go up. Things like running simulations, and then being able to immediately come back with, just to give you an example, we were building a solution back in Wipro an asset digital twin solution, right? We conceptualized in terms of how can we run simulations at the edge, right? But then running simulations at the edge, you have a very limited compute and storage, at the edge. Can we do it? Because simulation by itself, even in our company that we currently work, when you are talking about design and running simulations in the design, it takes hours, and it takes several CPUs to GPUs to run, and still it would take some time before you come back with the results, and then you will have to make some iterations before you could complete or finalize the design. So that process itself is very cumbersome. Now, if you want to cut down, that means if you are able to run simulations much faster, that means it requires innovations in the compute side, and also innovations in how you run your models, leveraging the the GPUs and the GPUs that you have, right? So FPGAs and GPUs that you have. How do you leverage those platforms to to drive these insight generation process a lot faster, thereby cutting down the overall time in coming out with this insights and discovery of whatever you're trying to look at. That's one thing. So in summary, I say high-speed data acquisition, inferencing at the edge is going to be one thing. Like the other panelist, Dr. Debojyoti was talking about Chat GPT, right? So how do I make use of, how do I adapt and adopt Chat GPT into enterprise, into my enterprise? And the challenges there are, again, it's good, yeah, Chat GPT is there, but how do I do that without making sure that the security and my core IPs are not compromised? Just to give you an example, there is a recent thing that is out there where one of the semiconductor industry, an employee of it, like they went about testing something with Chat GPT, and there was a IP leak because of that, right? So there's a lot of we need to consider all these aspects, but yet adapt these things. This requires a lot more understanding and adapting to leveraging these innovations that are happening. That's one. The third one, in terms of at least I'm speaking from a engineering side of the analytics space, because that's what my experience all along in the 18 years of my career so far. I've been involved in providing data and insights and analytic solutions for manufacturing and engineering divisions. So there is something that is evolving, which is basically how do I combine physics with AI ML algorithms. So developing physics inspired or physics informed neural network models, because what is critical over there is data. Like I said, right, you might have all data, but then you don't have the data that you need. And deploying models for manufacturing or engineering applications is a lot different than if you were to develop analytics for other business functions or support functions. Because for us, the critical thing is it can involve reliability aspects. It can involve safety aspects of it. When you're developing a model, and that model is something to do with an equipment where it is highly hazardous, and industrial safety is a thing, and you're doing real-time inferencing, and if your insights are going incorrectly, it can cause a loss to a person who's operating on that, or a catastrophe can happen, things like that. And that's an extreme case, but if you were to develop models and instead of being productive in terms of generating quality and yield improvements, coming out with a yield, the vice versa of it happens, right? Where you release a product that is not, where the quality is compromised because you compromised on some of these aspects. Not that you want to, but I am saying that you have to be extra cautious given all the challenges that I mentioned, where highly class imbalanced data, lot of features, in the order of 100,000 features sometimes we deal with, right? And large amounts of data, unstructured data, structured data, missing data. When I say missing data, it's not really missing, but it's actually the critical features that you need are missing. So how do I build technologies wherein I am able to get the state of the process using non-invasive technology? So what I see is there is a innovations that are already happening in the form of coming out with non-invasive technologies, which allows you to understand the process and the state of the process without where instrumenting is not an option, right? Because it comes invasive, and invasive can hamper the process itself, right? So in such cases, some of these things are very important, and developing and adopting causal inferencing models and GANs within the enterprise. These are some of the things that I see emerging, within the data science space when I talk about engineering and industrial applications.
Right. That was pretty insightful. So I think the rate at which these technologies are developing, I don't know, probably if I talk to you every quarter, I think the insights that you will give me about the latest trends and opportunities will be different.
Absolutely. That is, that is actually worrisome, because, unless and until individuals working in this field adapt to that change, right? It's going to be a lot difficult in their careers. But then how do you come out with, keeping up to the space that you are able to learn fast? So the thing is, for individuals who are going to be, pursuing in this journey, right? It's all about how fast am I learning, right? And so you have to find out mechanisms in terms of learning this quickly and adapting it, coming out with innovations, right? And innovation is all about, did I understand the problem statement correctly, right? And how do I know if I understood the problem statement correctly? That requires a domain understanding, right? And most of the, I don't know if people will agree with me or not, but especially data scientists, they, as we move forward into the future, right, it's going to be multidisciplinary, right? And not that it was not multidisciplinary before, but again, as I said, PhDs is all again a multidisciplinary, right? You are working a problem, and that problem requires multiple things to come together and develop, where math is the core of it, and the engineering in whichever field that you're trying to do, that becomes the core of it, right? Now, when you talk about the innovations that are happening, they are happening and at that pace within the industry because of the advancements in the compute and technology and other things. That means individuals, for them to survive and thrive, requires multidisciplinary approach, and not just a siloed approach. Oh, I learned data science, that is it. I'm good at maths. That's about it, right? Sorry, I say sorry to them if they just want to focus on data science and not domain and not technology and not business, right? And then the human aspect of it, right? It's a lot different when you say I developed this algorithm. It's a lot different when you say, okay, now I take this algorithm and deploy in the field. There will be a change management aspect to it associated with it. Or because your success is dependent on when the project goes live. And when the project goes live is a function of people who are adopting your solutions. And there is an element of change management which you need to plan for. And this is where these kinds of skills are something that I would encourage youngsters who are very, very agile and nimble in their approach, right? And I would encourage them to to adapt some of these things.
Thank you so much. Dr. Debojyoti, coming to you, same question. What are the trends, and where do you see this going? Do you see any prominent trends that people should start preparing themselves for?
So this is a very common question again. A lot of people says that, I'm doing this course, will I be employed? Right? That's because why will somebody learn something if they're not if there is not a financial aspect to it. I will just give an example. Think about the number of startups in 2013, 12, 13. It is probably in hundreds, 3,500 or 4,400, exactly don't remember number. In the latest 2021-22 fiscal year, the number of startups is 91,000 or 93,000, something in that. It's almost close to a lakh. Why this thing happened? So people are saying, okay, every day there is a new technology. Do I have to keep learning? Which Nagaraju Garu says, yes, you need to keep learning. But will there be job? I say, actually, there is more jobs now because of the number of startups. I take my example. Let's say today, when we started in Aureus, the Aureus journey, we're a very small company, but we actually won contracts competing with big organization. How is this possible? Because of two things. Now we have cloud infrastructure available, and on top of it, we have SaaS, software as a service, right? We have this two available. With this means for a small company like Aureus, will it be possible for us to get a 260 GB memory server running all the time? And it's the infrastructure cost is huge. We couldn't have survived that way. But when we use cloud as our main weapon, and then other things as ChatGPT is coming, before that Python free library was there, we can build products. So people who have questions that will I be employed after I get to this course, say through an Odin school or through any other school, I will say absolutely. As I said earlier, every white collar person needs to know data science. And there is also a plethora of jobs which is actually coming up. Earlier, I used to see that, a C-suite guy was there, means people who take strategic decision, like IIM guys, IIT guys, they will get into the C-suite and they will take decisions. But now, even if you see founders who are non-IIT, IIM also successful. Why they're getting successful? Because now the decisions they are taking is more data driven than their school knowledge. Why somebody from IIM will get in a C-suite? Because there is a training they give with a lot of case studies that, this company did this company did this. So now they remember, okay, this is what is a success mantra. So if my company is doing this, let me give them strategy. Now it is completely different. Now it is not like your data is driving your decision. So non-IIT, so think about this guy from CRED. He is hugely successful. He is non-IIT, non-IIM. How is he getting successful? Because he's taking his decisions by data. And I'm also seeing a lot of companies who are approaching us or any other company. They are saying, build us something through which we can make a data-driven decision. So if you think about the whole world is taking data-driven decision. So somebody is coding somewhere, somebody is doing something, right? So the number of jobs is actually going to increase rather than decrease. So it is like this, when computer came up, there is some people in this country who says, oh, computer came up, now all jobs are gone, we will be unemployed. It didn't happen. The same thing is happening because we are in AI version, means basically level 4. We are playing this game. So with this, there will actually more jobs being generated. So it's a high time that students who are thinking that, how will I be effective in my organization, or I'm getting new in this field, get this course, means learn data science from somewhere.
Right.
Then you will have a good opportunity coming up to you. And obviously learning is continuous. Like, as you said, in every quarter, we have a different, like, we are talking about generative AI, means even in December last year, I was not talking about generative AI. I was talking about, okay, this algorithm. But from March onwards, my whole journey is, okay, how to inculcate generative AI instinct. So probably in December, I will be talking about something else. That, okay, this is how it should work. Somebody's coming or something. Learning is continuous, but understand data, learn data, and then you will be effective. I will see, successful or not successful, there is other factors involved in it. But being effective in organization, you have to know about it.
In fact, I think this entire dynamism that has come into the evolution of technologies, that also emphasizes the a very high importance on having your fundamentals and basics right.
Yeah.
Where you have to learn your new technologies, or you have to upskill or reskill or whatever it is. Today, yesterday you were talking about something else. Today, even if somebody has to learn generative AI, they cannot do that until and unless their fundamentals in the basic coding languages are very strong. It is not that you cut, copy, paste code from somewhere and then you somehow manage to make your systems run and you just survive in your job, and then you have to upskill. So that's where you get stuck. So I think, especially at the entry level, in the 0 to 3 years, that phase where the career is actually taking off, focus on fundamental is crucial. And any thoughts? Do you agree?
Yeah. Can I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think you are very right, and Dr. Debojyoti.
You can call me Dr. Roy. Sir.
Dr. Roy, yeah, sorry. Thanks for that, giving me that flexibility. You're absolutely right. It has to be a data-driven culture that we need to adopt, and everybody has to learn and to get into this space. And there are numerous opportunities and all that, right? And Shruti, I agree with your point that it's about getting your fundamentals right? And especially if you were to pursue, and Dr. Roy, you can comment on this. If you were to pursue, career, long-lasting career in the data science space, I say two things are absolute. One is having strong fundamentals in the mathematics, right? Uh, of course, technology goes without saying, but math background is very critical, is what I would say, right? The complexity of math itself is increasing day by day. It's not that the math is not there, but the kind of innovations in the algorithm space that happens, and then how do you leverage those algorithms into your mainstream business, also requires you to have understanding of the domain that you are supporting. So that is another aspect that you have to factor. So as individuals, when you are dealing initially, when you're starting off your careers, mathematical background, strong mathematical background, B, having that open mindedness to learn and this thing, right? And most often people who take up a career in data science, they always feel that data engineering is something that is not their job, right? Yeah, it's someone else's job, right? My piece of advice there is, 50 to 60% of the job of a data scientist is all about, dealing with data, right? Extracting data, manipulating data, transforming it, and creating new features and things like that. That requires pure, data management, data engineering skills. That may be an area where they would want to invest their energies. In fact, that is an easy area to pick as a skill, right? If you put some efforts, you get it. Math could be difficult, especially people who don't have that, focused thing while they're growing up, right? It's a lot more intense subject for anybody to get at a later part of the career, right? And the third is the domain, and then integrating all these three things. So all these three things, as you move, you need to pick one at a time and then bring all of them together. So, but the underlying philosophy or the principle that one has to work with when you are getting into this field is be open. Don't be fixed. Don't be coming with a rigid mind that, oh, I will only work with developing algorithms, or I will only work with, I don't want to work on DevOps things or anything like that. Please come with an open mind.
Actually, Nagaraju Garu, you have given a lower percentage, that is 50 or 60. I will say it is 70 or 80.
I need to be mindful when I'm speaking in front of a data scientist. So
yeah, so it is 70 to 80.
Yeah.
And also what I felt is, see, because I deal with students all the time, means with other schools. And if you say that, you have to have a very strong background of math, people get scared because everybody is not good in math. But what I feel is with the advent of generative AI, more than math, you need to have a very clear logical skill. Like say, for example, when I was, in 2005 or 2003, 4, when I got inducted as a campus placement, they didn't ask us, to do programming and everything. We have to used to have aptitude tests. I guess still today, some of the companies take aptitude test. Why it is needed is they want to see, the the fresher which we are bringing in, is that person logical enough? Now I see now again the skill is going to pick up. Why? Because of the prompt engineering. Because say for example, unless you are a very dedicated coder, you don't have to write a program in the generative AI space, but you have to be very clear what you want. You have to be very objective what you want. So what I feel is students of data science who are coming in as a fresher, or as a fresher level, needs to have a very good logical skill. Then they have to ask, because chat gpt is like the genie to you. Like you say for example, in when we see in the movie, right? If you ask genie something which you think is okay, but genie is going to give you something which is like, no, this is what I want. It is almost like a king who wants to have all the golds in the world. So he asks for a boon that give me something where everything I touch turns into gold. So then he can't even feed himself, because the food is also turned into gold. He cannot feed on gold. So chat gpt is like that thing to you. It is going to yield you gold, but you need to tell it what portion of your infrastructure you need to turn into gold. So a very good logical skill is needed.
I completely agree with you on that. No,
Yeah.
no,
Now,
no.
let us look at this thing from the job seeker's point of view, right? I know I'm looking for a job. I know there is a lot of demand in the data space. And I know that if I upskill myself, probably I will get a job there. But then, how do I actually decide whether this domain is suitable for me as a career before I even choose to upskill myself in that area? How do I kind of analyze myself and see, okay, because of these skills that I have and these abilities that I have noticed in myself, this domain might be good for me. So how do I do that self-analysis and do that kind of matchmaking and see that, right, data space is right for me as somebody who's looking for a job? How do I make that decision? Or should I just make the decision because there is a demand in the market?
If I answer that first, now I see a lot of guys, because of Xbox 360, a lot of video games happen, right? Now I have seen, means I'm not a video game freak, but I have friends who play video games. So I see them, they keep on playing games, and and I say them, why are you playing this? They say, I have to cross this level. I have to cross this level. Then how do you cross this level? They fail, they understand there is an obstacle, then they plan. And once they plan, they then cross this obstacle, and that's how they complete the game, right? That's the whole thing. Our life, or where we want to work, is like the video game. Now you have to choose whether you want to keep failing and then succeed, or you want to back yourself with the data and then succeed. So for anybody, like whichever domain you wants to work in, you want to be successful in that field. To a job seeker, right? You want to be successful where you want to. Now, how do you be successful? You be successful once you join an organization, you take decisions backed by data, so that you make fewer mistakes. So for that, as I said, any job seeker has to have a clear understanding. If they say, for example, a fresher comes in, right, and I see that fresher is taking, coming back to me and says, sir, this is what I feel, this there's a good story around this, I feel this is the insight. Will I be more inclined to imbibe that fresher for a long-term thing, or somebody who is every time he's coming back to me and saying, okay, I need to, can you teach me this, can you teach me this, can you teach me this? Which one? So a job seeker who is looking to be successful in this, whatever field they are, computer science is only one thing. You don't have to worry about that. But whatever domain you are in, you want to be successful, please learn about data. Please learn about the effectiveness of data in creating a story, and also with your life. Nobody is going to ask you, what you do on your life, but you can use that data solving skill to progress in your career. So that's my advice to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Nagaraju, what's your take?
Yeah, so my take is, first of all, like, for an individual to make a call whether they're going to be successful in this field or not, first they need to analyze and assess whether they can formulate hypothesis statements properly in the domain that they're picking up, right? And hypothesis statement, what Dr. Roy was talking about, it doesn't need you to be having, complete math knowledge and all that. It's pure plain logic, right? See, I tell you, data science projects, as per the industry estimates, right, less than 20% of them actually make it to the market, right? That means they're deployed into the production, or they are in the hands of the customers, or whatever the end objective that one has for it, right? So the success criteria or the success metric as such is very low. That means you are going to have failures, and are you prepared to, to face those failures, and learn from it, and then and learn fast, I would say, right? And then come out of it and come up with better intuition when you come up with hypothesis statements. And I tell this to whomever I come across, is coming up with the hypothesis statement is very critical, because if you are able to come up with the right hypothesis statements, your ability to discard or disprove or accept, right, immediately, you can do it very fast, and then you don't have to try out multiple hypothesis statements, right? So if you get your hypothesis statement right at the first go, your ability to either kill it or get it successful will be high, and you don't have to have too much of time being wasted when you spend in this particular project, right? Most often, I know some people, our own team, sometimes we end up spending a year because we want to push to the boundaries to see a possibility or a plausibility of finding a solution, right? And in the end, we realize that there is no solution possible. And that could be because if I have to go back and ask myself, did I ask my hypothesis statement correctly in the beginning? Had I done that, my data collection process, everything, I would have done it rightly. And that during that process of collection data and other things, I would know what data is there, what data is not there. And then I can make a call immediately whether I should move forward or not. And if I move forward, I clearly know whether the data supports the decision I want to make, or things like that, right? And that makes us on the path of success. Success doesn't mean always coming out or meeting the objective. Success also means that you failed fast and you learn from the failure, right? So don't look at failures as failures, but rather as a stepping stone for success, I would say.
Right. Very interesting that you brought this up, because thousands of students are learning on our platform right now. And when I say students, it means graduates and early working professionals. Those are our learners. So a lot of them make these successful career transitions. So we kind of have a chat with them after they get placed and, they get a new job, and we try and analyze what actually helped them see that success. So that insight probably we can share with the others. There are certain things that come out very prominently. First is, no matter what interview, which company, they're asked to talk about their project, right? Because companies don't want definitions, they want applications. So they talk about, okay, you've learned data science, so have you done any hands-on experience? Have you worked on a project? So companies are really impressed with people who are able to explain the problem statement well, right? Second, in addition to talking about what they did in the project, students who are able to explain why they did that process or why they chose that particular technology, or why they chose to solve that problem in a particular way. That is what is bringing a lot of success. So these are two common things that we saw across hundreds of our success stories. So, like both of you rightly said, that logical ability, the ability to hypothesize, understand the problem statement, and more importantly, know why you are doing a particular thing. It is not just about solving the problem. It is being able to understand why you're solving the problem and why you're solving it that particular way. I think this is the combination of skills that companies actually want to see in a candidate. As a recruiter, I'm sure both of you in your positions would be. Hello. Am I audible?
No, you're fading out.
Is that okay? Am I audible now? Hello?
Yeah. It's
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you please confirm now, Sneha?
Yeah, you are audible, but your
Your
video is frozen.
Am I audible, visible now? Is that fine?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry for the we reliable connections sometimes tend to become unreliable. So sorry. So that is what I was talking about. So some skills that we have noticed, which give success to students, are being able to explain the problem statement well, being able to explain the why behind what they have done. That has really made a difference to the success of a lot of students. And that's kind of summarizing what both of you are talking as well. Now, as a recruiter, I'm sure both of you would be taking interviews and hiring new people into your team. What would be your priorities? How would you evaluate a person who's applying for a job in data science, data analytics? Dr. Roy, will start with you.
So when we look for interviewing, so there are three phases, right? I will talk about the fresher phase rather than the experience phase, because that's completely different. So in a fresher, what we try to bring in is how good they are in solving a problem. So what we ask them is, we give them a problem use case, and we ask them to write a pseudocode. So what we analyze in that phase is how logically they are coming to that conclusion when they are writing the pseudocode. So that is important, because through that we can understand that, okay, that person is structured in nature and that person is logical. So having a structure in your answer, giving capability, and being logical is one of the key skills I'm looking for. On top of it, what we look for is good communication skills, because if I'm looking for a fresher, I know the fresher will have a lot of problem, and then they have to come to us to basically get these things done, because we work in a very agile situation, and most of the companies do work in that situation. A fresher needs to be expressive. Expressive in the sense, for any fresher, means whoever is listening to this, if you have a problem, immediately reach out for help rather than sitting on that problem, because that doesn't create a good impression for you. So be expressive in your troubles or problems which you're facing every day. So what we also look for is a good communication skill. Can you explain your problem? So these are the three things I look for. I need a structured person. I need a person who is logical and a person who is good in communicating whatever challenges they are facing.
Right. I think that was very, very clear, very crisply put. Nagaraju, what about you? What would you look for when you're interviewing somebody for these kind of?
Yeah, if it is an entry level, yeah, I mean, basically, I would say.
So just a minute, sorry for interrupting. Would it be possible to turn your camera on?
Oh, sorry.
Right. Yeah.
I just basically switched off so that the bandwidth is not getting choked. Yeah.
You can carry on.
Yeah. So one of the things that I would always look for in individuals is their design thinking abilities, I would say, right? But then when you talk about a fresher coming in, right? How do you really assess, their abilities in this area as such, right? So it starts all the way with, their probing skills. When something is being asked, how are they probing the interviewer in terms of understanding and then responding and then formulating, the solution space, to the questions asked, right? So basically the probing skills to understand what the customers are asking for. In this case, the customer can be the interview panel. And then relating to their experiences, how they would have solved it. And even if they have not solved it, replaying it back to what they have understood and logically breaking it and then providing solution space or solution constructs to each of them. So to your point early on where you said about, did they understand the problem space properly, right? But how do you know that whether the individuals have understood the problem space or not, right? That goes back to probing and understanding, refining and reflecting and mapping to their experiences and going about that. The third part is the inquisitiveness, right? Are they exhibiting that inquisitiveness in kind of asking questions to understand what the interviewer is looking for, and then highlighting what proactively in the similar space the individuals would have done in the past, right? So have they done the enough research within this, and how did they go about, individuals have gone about solving such problems that the industry is facing? Need not they would have solved it, but at least there should be a point of view as to how they would have solved, if they were given such a problem, I would say, right? And then basically I would strongly look at individuals innovative and on the fly thinking abilities, right? That's one thing. And on the soft skills, and we strongly look at whether there is a they are able to communicate freely, and those things I would say. But communication, I would again weigh based on the role that they are playing. Sometimes the individual is very good, but he's not able to express, but at least I would consider that as a development area for him when he comes in, and we work together to build upon that. But then which one would I give weightage? I would say their innovation abilities, their design thinking abilities, their inquisitiveness, and the team player capability, their attitude and aptitude, I would say.
What about the technologies? Are there any certain technologies that you're looking for?
Yeah, if you ask me in the data science space, I would strongly encourage, again, this is my view, if they have exposure to database concepts, be good at data SQL, right? Because that's something people quite often overlook that, right? So data management as a theory, someone has fundamentals around that. When they are working on data science projects, they have to deal with data, and there's a lot of challenges in terms of writing efficient queries, managing data, and things like that. Having those concepts would really help. That's one. Of course, data science, you need to have good math and algorithmic background, right? Because I tell you, at least in our industry, in the companies, in our group that we work with, right? Most of them comes with a research mindset, right? There is a certain level of expectation with regards to their math skills that are required. So for you to even participate in the conversations and things like that, if somebody is talking about in a pure play math, algorithmic side, cost functions and things like that, and detail those kinds of things, right? You should be able to communicate, with them. Although I might be very logical and all that, how do I communicate with them if I'm not able to, talk their language, I would say, right? So that becomes a bottleneck, and that's where I was saying at least having a good, strong mathematical foundations in the algebra and I would say at least in the algebra, right? They need to be good on that side. And yeah.
Thanks. Dr. Roy, what about you? In terms of technologies that are different.
The field I'm working, I need any one of these skills. They need to know either a PLSQL, they need to know either a good Java or Python. So any one of the language, they should be able to code. That's a requirement for as a data scientist. I'm talking about data scientist. Data analyst is different. They need to just have an PLSQL skills is good for me for in that case.
Just to further add on, right? Let me, in terms of technologies, I would say as a bundled thing, right? If you can come up with having cloud engineering concepts, DevOps, engineering concepts, and of course, data science and database, and some amount of full stack development, right? Need not be an expert in these fields. At least if they have a bent of mind, when you want to create a product, and eventually it will be a solution or a product that will go into the market, right? It's a culmination of all these things that goes into making a complete solution, right? When you are able to interact with your peer group from the other technologies and all, you will be able to anticipate problems ahead of time and design for it when you're doing it. Of course, this will come in the later stage, but at least I would say having that bent of mind, they know how to engage, whom to engage, when to engage, so that the solutions that they're building or they are working, they have end sight and goal, and then they are successful in that, I guess.
Right. So one last question to you before we wind up. This discussion came up in the beginning when you were introducing yourself, your transition from a mechanical production engineer to data science. Was it tough? Are you happy? I'm sure you're happy making it, but was the transition difficult? Can you just very briefly tell us about that transition?
For me, it came very naturally, right? And I was very fortunate to be associated in the most happening things in the field that I got graduated, right? I got graduated in the mechanical production engineering space, where everything is to do with plants and setting up plants and doing production planning and control, inventory management, and material designs and things like that, different aspects of it, right? And if you look at my domain areas that I've worked in the last 18 years, it's all been through factories and plants and providing solutions for them. In between, I was involved in healthcare and other industry verticals, but mostly to do with manufacturing as a domain, right? So domain wise for me, that has the best thing that have happened, and I could latch onto it because that has been my passion and all that. Data analytics, as I said, just to give you an example that I talked about, right? When I started my first job in SaaS, one guy who is an extremely bright guy, colleague of mine from IIT, one day he came and asked, "Hey, you are working on SaaS, right? Do you know about this curve fitting?" He said, right? Then I was like stumped. What is this curve fitting? And he comes and asks me. Then I had to go back and look at it, learn from it, and then slowly I started understanding what this was all about, right? And 4 years or 3 years back, I was involved in a project which is to do with again curve fitting. That means 8 years passed by and I'm still involved, and whatever I knew on whatever I was asked on that day, I got exposed to the same thing, and I was like so happy, right? So I think for me the transition came in a natural progression, without much surprises. The only thing I would say, it's a little bit of discomfort, I would say. I wouldn't say discomfort, but when I took this role in Micron, it's completely research mindset organization that I am in, full of math guys. And when you're dealing with all those people, you have to be at that level. So that pushes you in that corner. I took a conscious decision of getting the depth in the algorithm space, but probably I should have been prepared, a little more prepared on that front, I would say. And not that I took a horizontal view of all the things, right, with execution experience largely. But when you are entering into a core research data science field, what I realize is you need to pick a course and then get into the space. Research in data science field is a lot different, I would say.
Thank you so much. So we'll wind up the discussion. Any last parting word suggestion, Dr. Roy, for our viewers? When I say viewers, it means students. People aspiring for their first job or looking for a transition into data sciences.
So I always say this for all the aspiring data scientist or data analyst, whoever it is, with faith, just embark in this journey. There is job out there. There is a good future with this. I'm not saying that everybody will earn a 1 crore package, but everybody will have a job, because this field is evolving, as I said, with statistical evidence that what is the number of startups we have in 2012, 13, and now how many. So what are the startups doing, right? Giving people jobs, but giving people, who are they giving jobs? Who are data driven, because small startups, they cannot get into the manufacturing. So they basically is looking at helping big companies in making a data driven decision. And who will be doing that? People like who are coming out of college. So have a leap of faith, have an open mindset, have a logical attitude, and that's it. They will be, some will be hugely successful, but everybody will get something out of it. There is a huge pie in the market. Everybody will get some part of the pie.
Thank you. Nagaraju, what would be your last parting word suggestions?
Yeah, I strongly echo with Dr. Roy's comment, right? Just to put it a little differently, I would say the democratization of AI is happening in a big way. It's going to be pervasive in everything and anything that you can think of, which only means that the opportunities are out there. Yeah, it is true that there's a lot of talk around automation achieved through ChatGPT and all that. But if you look at it, adopting ChatGPT into your business applications in the areas that have not happened before, that itself is going to create opportunities for you, which means someone has to go there and integrate your apps and into your business processes and things like that. And then there is a support that comes along the way, which is, so it's an exciting field, embrace it. But my piece of advice to you is, it's an exciting journey that's going to be there. You will enrich. And especially I can talk for people coming from an engineering background and an engineering with an engineering experience, right? It's going to be an exciting journey for them. If someone wants to perceive analytics in the engineering space, you would love this going forward.
Great.
Be prepared. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That gives hope to so many aspirants, who want to make it. So essentially, if I understand right, the jobs are not the problem. Developing the skills to get those jobs or fit into the requirements of the job is where people have to work on. And with the kind of resources, learning resources available now, structured courses like ours available now, learning and upskilling has become a lot easier now than it was a few years ago. So do make use of all the resources available, and like you heard from the experts themselves, have faith both in the field of data science and in your ability to make it big. Thank you so much, Dr. Roy, Dr. Nagaraju Chikoti. It was a pleasure talking to both of you. A lot of insights, lots of hope, and I think aspirants of data science will get a lot of confidence after this talk. We'll keep coming back to you for more insights. Everything at Odin School is driven by the industry. We continuously take industry insights and keep incorporating them into our program so that our students can become more and more appropriate to meet the industry requirements. So that is why all these conversations keep happening, and we'll keep doing them in the future as well. Thank you so much for being a part of today's talk. Thank you, all the viewers. And we'll come back to you with another talk, more industry insights soon. So take care and have a great weekend. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Dr. Roy.
Thank you, Nagaraju Chikoti.